Hello, this is Mr. Newcomb, and I would like to focus on the first case study related to Unit 1, which is Rwanda. I want to start off with an African saying. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion, or it will be killed. Every morning a lion wakes up, and it knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle, or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you are a lion or gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. So how does this African saying apply to Rwanda? Well, when the crisis explodes in 1994, the Rwandese would hear the latest radio broadcast or the beating of the drums. For the Hutu, that was their message or signal that they need to go and seek and find Tutsis. For Tutsis, that was their message or signal that they knew the Hutus were coming, and so they better run and hide. Find that safety. Now, the Rwandan crisis occurs in 1994. We might simply refer to it as the Rwandan genocide. The Rwandan crisis is very complex, and so over the next few slides, I would like to break that down and look at the long and short-term causes. You may remember from 10th grade, whether you were in AP World History or World History, the Great Scramble for Africa in the 19th century. The Europeans had carved up the continent of Africa into a number of colonies. Well, when they carved it up and they created these borders, it crossed tribal lands, and that is going to create conflict. So the European imperialism of the 19th century is going to have a very devastating impact on Africa. Rwanda is going to be no different. It's going to be shaped by the policies of Germany and by Belgium. And policies by both these countries has a race element to it. In Rwanda, it's composed of two main ethnic groups, Hutu and Tutsi. The Hutu will be the majority, and the Tutsis will be the minority. And throughout the 20th century, even before when the Civil War breaks out in 1990, that there's going to be conflict between these two groups, and it's going to be racial. Because what we find out is that during the colonial times, whether it's by the German or the Belgians, the Tutsis were viewed as the ideal colonial subject. So that meant the Tutsis were going to be better off economically and financially, and the Hutus are going to resent them. The Belgians took it to another level, and they created these identification cards. And these cards are clearly going to identify you as a Hutu or a Tutsi. This will play out or become very instrumental when the conflict erupts in the 1990s. You simply needed to get their identification card, and you found out right away who was a Hutu and a Tutsi. But what can complicate this is that there was a little blur between who was a Hutu and a Tutsi. Heredity, yeah, can play an effect here as well. But you had marriages between Hutus and Tutsis that blurred the lines. And then some people were just simply given the distinction of being a Hutu and a Tutsi. So it turned into being sometimes a very complicated affair. Now, by mid-20th century, Rwanda is going to gain its independence. The Belgians are going to give up colonial rule, their power, and you're going to have a general election, and the Hutus win. No real surprise, since the Hutus make up the majority of society. Now, the Tutsis almost immediately begin to feel retribution by the Hutus. The Hutus are going to strip them of their power. They're going to take them out of their positions of authority in regards of the economic sector. They're going to lose their education positions, political positions. Basically, you're going to see a whole redrawing of Rwandan society. And so the Tutsis are going to flee, and they're going to flee to African states like Uganda. And the Tutsis refugees are going to organize with the aim to return and take back their power. And so you see the workings of a new group known as the Rwandese Patriotic Front. We're going to call them the RPF. Okay, and so Rwanda in the 1980s is going to turn into a crisis state. The economy is declining. Rwanda's main export, which was coffee, that market, the bottom fell out. So they quickly turned into a crisis state. And as a result of that, it is prime for conflict. And at the end of the 1980s and early 1990s, the Tutsi rebel forces, known as the RPF, is going to invade from Uganda and have some limited success. And the UN is going to quickly work towards getting a ceasefire. Now, the president, Habyarimana, is going to work on, with the UN, is going to help create a power sharing agreement between the two groups. And it's going to be signed by the Rwandan president. This is going to be known as the Arusha Accords. And so they're signed in 1993. Not real popular among the Hutu extremists. Hutu moderates look at it as potential as a compromise. And the Tutsis look at this as an opportunity for them to come back into Rwanda and have a say in the Rwandan government and be reintegrated into Rwandan society, fully reintegrated into Rwandan society. Another accord is going to be signed in 1994 that really sets up the power sharing, allows for elections to occur, and get the RPF to be reintegrated into the Rwandan military. However, all that comes to an abrupt halt when the Rwandan president, Habyarimana, and the Burundi president, their plane coming back from the signing of the accords was shot down. And almost immediately, the wave of ethnic killings in Rwanda begins, which leads many to believe that perhaps this was a pre-planned conflict, pre-planned genocide. The workings of it being done years before this event had occurred. So now, over the next few days, we're going to look at and analyze the causes of the Rwandan crisis. We'll explore the 100 Days conflict, and then evaluate the impact of the Rwandan crisis.